Hello and welcome to Post Game Theory. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. Tonight, we're going to talk about the Milwaukee Bucks beating the Oklahoma City Thunder in the NBA Cup, the second year of the NBA Cup. We're going to talk about Giannis making a statement for MVP tonight and break down his triple-double in glorious fashion. But first, let's hit the music.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Way downtown.
Bang! Bang! What's this going to be? Wow! Are you kidding me?
Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. But if you watch the tape, what you will see completely orchestrated this game. Hello and welcome. I hope that you're all having a beautiful Tuesday night in the United States, Wednesday afternoon here over in Australia. The Milwaukee Bucks have taken down the NBA Cup 97-81 against the Oklahoma City Thunder. And man, it was an interesting game. I did not expect the Thunder to just go completely quiet on offense in the way that they did. This was, in some respect, a story of three-point shooting, right? The Milwaukee Bucks go 17 of 40, shoot 42.5% from three. The Oklahoma City Thunder only go 5 of 32, shooting 15.6% from three. But I think it's worth noting, some people will look at this and say, hey, if the Thunder had just shot better from three, they would have been in this game, or it would have been a closer game. Maybe that run that the Bucks had in going into the fourth quarter, not as bad, right? To me, you create your three-point looks by getting paint touches. And I thought tonight, the Milwaukee Bucks, through strategic help, through pretty good on-ball defense, frankly, did a really good job of limiting open looks by stopping themselves from collapsing often off of shooters who can knock down shots. And to me, more than anything, what this game showed is that the Thunder might need one more guy. Now, that could very well be Chet Holmgren when he comes back, because Chet is a very serious mismatch nightmare. He's a guy that is capable of getting to his spots as a creator because of his handle. That might be enough for them. But I think that this iteration of the Thunder looked one shot creator short. And I think that kind of a primary example of that is that they struggled to find different avenues to be able to take advantage of guys like Damian Lillard out on the court. Lillard was able to kind of hide even on guys like Kenrich Williams throughout this game, was relatively comfortable hiding on, even like Isaiah Joe. Isaiah Joe got open a few times, but they felt pretty good about that matchup. The Bucks did, it felt like, to me at least. On top of that, I will say, I love Jalen Williams. I think he's an absolutely tremendous basketball player. Hasn't been amazing over this last little stretch offensively as a creator. Goes for 18 points on 20 shots tonight, has 3 assists. I thought he played really well on defense for what it's worth. But I do think that with where his game is right now, he might be, as a 23-year-old, whatever age he is, I think he's still only 23 or 24. He might still be like a true shared number 2 or a number 3, right? If he has Chet there, things are probably a little bit easier on offense again, because they're able to swing the ball around, move it, get paint touches, kick out, things like that. But right now, they don't really have that third option. And Jalen probably isn't quite there yet to be a true number 2 by himself in the NBA, because his game is based on bullying guys, getting to that mid-range area, taking those little floaters, being able to kick out. I think his passing has been a little bit lower, a little bit substandard compared to what I expected this year from Jalen Williams. But to put it all on just the Thunder not being able to create, or the Thunder not knocking down shots or having poor shot luck. And they did to some extent. They went freaking 5 of 32 from 3. They did miss some shots. I think that would really reduce what the Bucks did tonight. The Bucks were really good on defense tonight. You hold Oklahoma City to 81 points. You've done an amazing, amazing job. I thought Giannis was terrific. I thought Brook Lopez on the interior was terrific. I thought we got a super high effort Damian Lillard game defensively, which is no surprise given the money involved with an NBA Cup game. And I'll also shout out, two of their young guys that, I've been a fan of, Andre Jackson, for a long time. Andre Jackson, still a real offensive question mark, but I thought he did a really good job just making Shea work throughout the night. Shea got to his spots and missed some mid-range jumpers, missed some threes, but he made him really work for it. And I do wonder if that kind of ended up wearing him down throughout the latter portion of the game. I don't know. It's Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. He's one of the 5 best players in the league. You never know the cumulative effects of these things. You might be overstating it saying that, but I thought Andre did a really good job making him work, at least tonight. The second guy is AJ Green. I mean, I've been saying now for like 3 or 4 weeks, maybe longer than that, that he really can be the 5th guy on the court for the Bucks whenever they're fully healthy, with Chris Middleton, who, by the way, didn't play tonight because he had an illness, I guess, like a cold that he didn't get over in time. But AJ Green was great. He had 9 points, drilled those 3 threes, and really held up defensively in big moments. Teams think that they can attack him. He gets that treatment that like Sam Merrill and Sam Hauser, like those guys do, where teams think that they can attack them. So they try to, and they really can't. They're good at, those guys are good enough defensively to where they can hold up in one-on-one situations. Yeah, Shea's going to get to his spots and he's going to make shots, but AJ Green's at least going to get a contest on that shot in all likelihood, as opposed to some of the other defenders around the league that really are poor and will be able to potentially get taken advantage of in that way. Yeah, look, this was not a great Jalen Williams. This was not a great Shea night. Shea goes 8 for 24 from the field, has more turnovers than assists, right? I felt like particularly Oklahoma City's ball movement was not at the level that it typically is. And again, that kind of goes back to what what I mentioned earlier in regard to they just didn't get great paint touches tonight, it felt like. And I do think people will overreact to this game a little bit and say like, oh my God, like they can't get paint touches ever. This is a real problem. I think that this Bucks team is, in particular, the more that I watch the game, probably a difficult matchup for them just in terms of their size and length on the interior. Now, I thought coming into the game that they should be able to beat these guys at the point of attack, but that did not end up happening at the end of the day. It truly just did not, and that is a substantial issue. But coming into this game, Oklahoma City had the 9th best offensive rating in the league. They were 1st in turnover rate, 15th in effective field goal percentage. They obviously don't draw fouls, and that is a real thing that would be difficult to manage in a matchup like this against Brook Lopez and Giannis, where they're going to shut down the interior. And if you can't draw fouls against them, it's basically entirely like a mid-range and 3-point shooting contest at that point. So I don't know. I mean, Fuzzy Bunny asks, what difference do you think Chet would make in this matchup if he had played? I think a pretty substantial one, honestly. This is the kind of matchup that made them acquire Isaiah Hartenstein, these teams that can go super big against you. I think that if, they're playing the Bucks or Denver or somebody like that, they start both Hartenstein and Chet. They probably have Hartenstein on Giannis, would be my guess, and just be physical and strong, and then bring over Chet as the weak side rim protector and hope that Hartenstein can also handle the glass. Certainly, I think they would have had much more of a chance on the glass than what they did tonight, because, I mean, they were just so small throughout so many portions of this game, it felt like to me. And I know that they out offensive rebounded the Bucks, or no, did they? It was close. Like, I think that it was like 10-7, 9-8, something like that, and the 9-7, something like that in the offensive rebounding battle. But like, I do feel like they would have had a better chance to control and dictate this game just a little bit better if they had Chet and were able to really make this like a defensive slugfest and to have the bodies to throw at Giannis time after time, because this is where we'll transition into the Giannis discussion. Giannis was just like by far the best player on the court tonight. And yesterday or 2 days ago, whenever Bryce Simon and I did our little preview of this thing, we both said that we thought Giannis would go for like 40, 15, and 5 or something in this game and would be like the clear dominant force, if only because Oklahoma City just doesn't have a great matchup for him on this roster right now. They don't have a guy that they can like just throw at him and say, hey, we need you to like just body him up and be physical. And I know some people kind of said that like, oh yeah, like Alex Caruso does a good job against Giannis typically. Look, Caruso can like annoy him and like pester him a little bit, but he's not stopping him from getting to the rim, guys. I mean, that got borne out throughout the course of this game, right? It's just not reality. They tried Jalen Williams on him to start the game. Jalen Williams is like 6'5.5". He has a 7'2" wingspan, but he's just a lot smaller, and Giannis can see over the top of him, which I think is, you know, part of the reason that Giannis ended up with, I think, 10 assists tonight. He had a triple double. So yeah, 10 assists. He goes for 26. What was the final rebounding? 26, 19, and 10 in this game, and was just completely and utterly dominant. It felt like throughout stretches of it, particularly barreling his way to the rim. And yes, this was a good matchup. And yes, like in theory, I guess this game, this NBA Cup final, does not actually count for stats or a win or a loss for the Thunder or the Bucks. But I will say this, like, to me so far this year, I know that 2.5 weeks ago, whenever we did MVP, I had Giannis at fourth, just because at that point we had, I think, 9 fewer games, and Giannis's early, like first 8 or 9 games of the year were taking up a bigger percentage of his overall sample to this point. But I also said at that time that I think Giannis is very clearly the guy that is going to challenge Jokic for MVP this year. Right now, I would have Giannis as the MVP of the league, given what the Bucks have done. The Bucks have won 13 of their last 16. I think it's actually more and more difficult to hold their start of the season against them, given that they are currently sitting in 5th in the Eastern Conference and will likely continue to rise all the way up to 4th, maybe 3rd, depending on how the Knicks continue to play here over this little stretch coming up. This is as good as I've ever seen Giannis play this season. This run here since his first 8 games of the season, I think that this is probably the ceiling that we have seen from him so far in the NBA. And that feels crazy to say. The guy is freaking 2 MVPs. He has an NBA Finals MVP. He, you know, is an 8-time All NBA player. God knows how many all defense teams he's made. Like, the guy has just been a complete and total joke for years now. But if you look at his last like 15, 16 games here, starting with that monster 43-point, 13 rebound game against Boston, where they really battled the Celtics and gave them everything that they could handle, I just don't think I've seen him play better. And part of that's the mid-range shooting, obviously. You look at what he's been able to do as a shooter this season. He had one tonight where he hit like a fadeaway against Caruso, I think. You look from 10 to 16 feet, he's sitting at 54% right now. You look 16 to the 3-point line, he's hitting 44%. In total, he's hitting just, I think, a little bit under 50% to like 48% so far from that area of the court, the mid-range area. And this is a guy that really struggled for a while to knock down mid-range shots. He is a more well-rounded threat offensively than anything I can remember seeing from him. And over these last 15 games that he's played, he's averaging 34, 11, 6.6 assists, 2 blocks, and he's shooting 62% from the field and getting to the line 12 times a game. He's just absolutely dominating opponents. I also think we're seeing Jokic peak on offense for what it's worth. So this MVP battle is going to be an absolute bloodbath. It wouldn't surprise me if, one guy takes the lead over the other kind of back and forth throughout the year. Right now, I would give the edge to Giannis. Jokic is also at an insane level right now. Deserves a lot of credit. I think it is those two, though, based off of what I've seen. All due respect to Shea, he's had a great year up until tonight. Jason Tatum's had a great year up until tonight, certainly, or up until, throughout the year, I guess. But I think these are the two best guys in the league right now still. I think tonight was a showcase why, and let's kind of just jump into the tape and talk through it, and we can talk through some of how the Thunder tried to manage him in terms of just as a mismatch nightmare. But it's hard. I mean, Giannis is 6'11". He has a 7'5" wingspan. He's the most physical dude in the league. And it's hard to manage. So just to follow up on the MVP thing, people are bringing up defensive rating in this conversation, saying Giannis has a 111 defensive rating compared to Jokic's 108. Anybody that thinks Jokic is a better defender than Giannis based off of their defensive rating is out of their mind. Sorry, guys. That's just a very poor use of stats if we're going to do that. So please do not. Let's not do that with defensive rating, please. Giannis is a much better defender than Jokic, and we know it. Basketball Genesis brings up Shea's leading the best team in the NBA without his second best player. Look, I think Chet and Jalen are pretty close in terms of their overall value. I'll hear it out, right? Like I think I would have Shea third or fourth in MVP right now. It is what it is, but I mean, Giannis is also leading the Bucks right now without his third best player in Chris Middleton. So once Middleton gets back, you would think they will be in a better spot. Let's dive into the tape, though, where we get Giannis here just downhill. They did such a good job of getting him downhill throughout the night. Just such a high step-up screen here. These situations are always really hard for drop coverage bigs like Isaiah Hartenstein to deal with, and he deals with this exceptionally well. I think Hartenstein does a good job of making early contact, getting physical with Giannis here. I mean, he makes contact like right here. Hartenstein, we just did a video on Hartenstein last night. This dude's 255 pounds. He's 7 foot tall. He walls up like Alperen Şengün in the semis could not move him. Had no chance to move him. Giannis sends him from here all the way back to here. This dude sent him like 20 feet, 15 feet, whatever that is. Just with a little shrug move. It's ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous. That's why, to me, the best comparison for Giannis, they play totally differently. So I don't mean this from like a total stylistic manner, but like the best comparison to me has always been Shaq. Like to me, Giannis is just the modern era Shaq. He's just physically more powerful and stronger than you. And he's going to barrel into your chest. And he's going to blow through you. He does it in a different way. He gets downhill from the perimeter and tries to get downhill and go through your chest that way. Shaq did it on the block, right? But ultimately, they're deriving shots at the basket in an elite way and at an elite volume. And I can't think of a better clip that kind of showcases that than him sending Hartenstein, a 255-pound big, flying 15 feet after making contact through his chest. Again, just really sharp here to me. Credit to Doc Rivers. High step up. Allows Giannis to get downhill. And once he gets downhill, he's just a freight train. Hartenstein just gets like slightly off of his line here. He assumes Giannis is going to go middle. Giannis crosses over and goes to his right. I like what Dort does here. Dort makes this early scramble transition play where, again, he's just going to try and make contact with Giannis. And again, Lou Dort is like 240 pounds. That dude is a Mack truck. And Giannis just absolutely sends him flying backward. Empty side post up. For a guy that gets, stated to have no game, and he's just more physical than everybody, the people that are, in bad faith about Giannis. I mean, just look at this footwork here. Jalen Williams is an athlete, guys. And he just catches Jalen leaning, goes baseline, beats Hartenstein to the help, and throws down. I mean, this is beautiful footwork here. Beautiful. So Giannis on the wing here, flashes middle. And again, this is just a mismatch, right? Really, Jalen Williams probably has to be like out front here, especially given that he has someone behind in Shea who's really good at, if the entry pass goes over Giannis, Shea's going to be able to go up and be able to try and high point that ball against Giannis. He is one of the better free safeties, I think, in the league at getting steals. But if you let Giannis get to this spot and then you go high, this is really good spacing here by Taurean Prince, who has Hartenstein guarding him. You're just leaving Jalen Williams on an island here, and J-Dub catches his wrist there. You can see it, fouls him. Giannis, 19 rebounds tonight. Was great on the glass, a lot of contested ones. Really underrated live dribble passer too. Just those enormous hands, right? So what I think he's seeing here is just pretty simple. He's seeing that Kenrich is helping over with Caruso. I think he does the look away here, but really what I think he's looking at is Shea to see if he's going to come up onto Portis at all and leave Kaysen in the 1-on-2 here with Jackson and Green. But when he doesn't, it's easy pickings. It's right there. Another early ball screen. This one a little bit lower. This is just an absurd pass. And this just goes to Giannis's balance, right? To be this big, I mean, he's just setting up Hartenstein with a bevy of moves here off the bounce. One, between the legs. Hesitation, crossover. Back between the legs. Few dribbles, pump fake, use your length. Even just like the subtle eye manipulation here, where he looks like he's going here to Portis, which sinks Caruso in. Even just that little more. Gets Trent just that time for the three. It was perfect. So here, I think this is just going to be a beautiful mid-range. And, look, man. If Giannis has the Dirk fadeaway down, That's like balanced, that's poised, that's calm, completely collected. I mean, that's a great contest from Jalen Williams here. Arm is high. If Giannis is making this, he is like genuinely unstoppable. There isn't anything you can do to stop him because he's going to at least get this position on you. You cannot stop him if he has this shot. Now, he hasn't always had this shot. This year, so far, he's had it. We'll see if it holds up. But for as long as he has this little Dirk fadeaway or these mid-range jumpers, it is exceptionally hard to deal with him. Again, he's just going to be able to get to that spot. And Caruso, I love Alex Caruso as a defender. I think he's one of the best guard defenders in the league. There's just nothing that he can do against Giannis when he decides to put his shoulder into you and go up. There's nothing that can be done. This one is off of an inbounds, if I remember correctly. Let's see if I can get it exactly where it starts. So Connaughton inbounds the ball here to Prince. Prince drives baseline, forces the Hartenstein help. This is one where Shea really has to be able to get early contact and help the helper here. Kind of a good example to me of why, I see people sometimes say Shea should get all defense kind of plaudits. Shea's a good defender. Like, he's disruptive on the backside. He gets steals. I don't want to say he's like, some poor defender. He's definitely not that by any stretch. But to me, like, that is the difference between him and a, like an elite, true, all NBA, all defense guy. All defense. He's definitely an all NBA player, but an all defense guy particularly. He is a little bit late on those things from time to time. And Giannis catches him there. I mean, like, people say, like, Giannis gets every call. Guys, like, I'm telling you, watch a game with a Bucks fan, they lose their mind at the number of calls that Giannis doesn't get. It's, again, this is why I bring up Shaquille O'Neal. Like, Lakers fans, it drove Lakers fans crazy all the time that he only had like 10 free throws a game, right? But seriously, like, it's the same with Giannis. Like, he's averaging 12 free throws a game over his last 15 games. He's just more physical than everybody in the league. He can't get penalized for being more physical. This one just beats Caruso to the spot, right? It's not like this is a complicated action. Just throwing the ball in from Connaughton to Lopez. Caruso tries to make early contact, tries to come up high, and Giannis just kind of says, "Get off of me." It's hard to guard him with a small. Caruso fights, but it's hard. Just perfect little entry pass there. Nothing crazy, nothing fancy. You do kind of get to see the length here. This is one spot where I wanted to call out. His arm length really allows him to create passing angles that other guys just kind of can't create. Like, he is so long that he is able to kind of wrap his arms around the top of Caruso and throw like a wraparound bounce pass, entry pass into Lopez perfectly. I mean, it's really good. It's really impressive. So here, again, just early entry. Feels the help come. Easy kick out. As soon as he feels Isaiah Joe double, the Thunder this year have experimented with doubling guys like Giannis, Jokic, etc., trying to make up for the size mismatch that they have early in the season with Chet without Hartenstein. They did it with Jokic. Tonight, they tried to do like later doubles with Giannis at times. If guys can pass, Oklahoma City, I think, is the best rotating team defensively in the league and one of the better ones I've seen in a long time, if not the best. It's just hard. It's really, really hard to get all the way out there in time. That's a pretty good closeout. Like Shea gets there. But for NBA shooters, guys like Taurean Prince that are 39% three-point shooters, that's a pretty clean look at the end of the day when they really get a chance to like line up and knock it down. It's a pretty clean look at the end of the day for Taurean Prince. It's hard. It's hard to do. Hard to stop that. So this one defensively, I mean, they were really good defensively in this game, the Bucks. I mean, just look at this rotation. Look at him meet Hartenstein in the air. Again, just being one of the strongest players in the league. This is what's crazy about Giannis to me. When Giannis got to the league, he was like skinny. He was not this. He was not able to just like take a bump here. Hartenstein just try and go through his chest. He's now like one of the one of the 5 strongest players in the league. Right? It's crazy how physical he is now. Say Hartenstein's 255 pounds and just absolutely can't go through him. That's a good defensive play to me. Gets this loose pass. This entire sequence is just completely ridiculous for a guy that's 6'11" to be able to do. He catches behind the back, gets it in his left, brings it in away from Hartenstein, looks up, has the vision to realize that he's got 2 guys here for one of those guys being Lillard, and just shoots a left-handed live dribble pass perfectly on the money and drills him right in the shooting pocket. Easy 3 for Damian Lillard. That's the balance, the coordination. That's what makes him special. It's a combination of the balance, the strength, the coordination, just all of it. It's insane. This one gets the rebound again. Now we're just going to bring it up. We're going to do it ourselves. We're going to get into empty side, post up. I mean, like Jalen Williams, again, super strong dude, built like a linebacker. If you're not going to bring help, he's going to go through you. Really, like the way that, I'd expect like a team in the playoffs to defend this is like Hartenstein to come over, tell Shea, hey, take Brook Lopez, and have him try and like help at the basket instead of Shea. But look, when you're in transition, semi-transition, like those communications are hard. And like Lou Dort is the one doubling. Really, what surprised me most in this game, just fully, right? Let's talk about it. He played 26 minutes tonight, Andre Jackson. I love Andre Jackson. I love the way he plays. I love the way he competes. Everyone I've known, from the Connecticut guys to, anybody that dealt with him in the pre-draft process, anybody who's ever known Andre Jackson says what an awesome human being he is. He is also a complete non-shooter. And we saw this in their game in the quarterfinals against who did they play in the quarterfinals of the NBA Cup? They played the Magic, I believe, in the quarterfinals. And the Magic just sunk off of them. Sunk off of Andre Jackson to the point where they couldn't play him. I was surprised by how much Oklahoma City just played him as like an honest player on the court. And played him like a shooter, played him like somebody who is a threat out there in some way. The way that I kind of thought that they would come into this game, in all honesty, was I thought that they would. There are a couple of ways you can do it. You could start with Jalen Williams or Lou Dort on him, depending on what you want to do with Lillard. I get starting Jalen Williams on him. But I would have gone with one of the smaller guys on Brook. I would have started Kaysen Wallace instead of Isaiah Joe. And I would have gone Kaysen on Lillard, Dort on Brook Lopez, or Jalen Williams, whichever one you want to do. Dort or Jalen Williams on Giannis, and then put Isaiah Hartenstein on Andre Jackson. And said, if you beat us, go ahead and beat us from 3, but you're not going to beat us from 3. And then every single time that Giannis is going to the rim, you have Hartenstein there as well as a primary defender. I saw somebody ask, like, when Giannis is playing like this, how do you stop him? You do the old Stan Van Gundy. You form a fucking wall at the basket. And you have multiple guys help over. I was surprised Oklahoma City didn't lean into that a little bit more. They've done it before. You know, teams do it to them or did it to them previously. Certainly when they had Josh Giddey, they've still been doing it a little bit with Alex Caruso this year. But yeah, like one of Dort or J-Dub on Giannis, Hartenstein on Andre Jackson, and the other of Dort or J-Dub on Brook. And then start Kaysen and put Kaysen on Damian Lillard, or start Caruso and put Caruso on Damian Lillard. There were a lot of options here that they just didn't employ. And I was quite surprised. I think I would say, quite surprised by that. And then you still, by the way, if you want to take Shea and have him get some rest, you still have Taurean Prince out there that you can put Shea on, and Taurean mostly spots up, and that's really it. So I was very surprised, to be honest with you. And this is where we're going to get wild, because I've thought Mark Daigneault has been, like, if not the best coach in the league, certainly one of the 3 best coaches in the league for like the last year and a half. I thought he got outcoached tonight by Doc Rivers. I thought Doc Rivers outcoached Daigneault tonight. Happens. Doc's been around for a while. Did a good job. This one, I put this one on here just because, you know, you get to see a little bit of the 2-man game between Giannis and Lillard that is developing, you know, clearly still getting better. I love the way that Lillard sees that Giannis is obviously going to get this against Jalen Williams and just goes behind immediately to get this dribble handoff. It's something small. It's not a crazy statement or anything. It's not like a league altering moment. But them getting any sort of synergy between those two, I think, is important. I think it's really, really important. So this one, Giannis going to catch. Good job there by Kaysen. But it's still 6'2.5" Kaysen Wallace on Giannis. And again, really good footwork here, right? Giannis always does a good job using that off arm as well, which I'm sure drives other people crazy. Just the way that he's able to use that back arm there, kind of seal off Wallace here. Probably a foul. If Thunder fans want to complain, I understand it. Not a foul if you don't get called for it, though. And instead, Giannis gets the foul call. Coming over. This one. He's just everywhere in help. Misses the shot. Who misses the box out on Hartenstein? I mean, really, Bobby's on the ground, so they're kind of screwed on this one anyway. Giannis comes over. Helps. Good defensive play. Then he's going to come over. Help again. Good defensive play. Good work. Contests multiple times around the basket. I will say, like, another thing about this Oklahoma City team in general, without Chet, they do lack a degree of vertical spacing. Hartenstein is best with those like little floaters, right? And Hartenstein can get up. Like he had, I think, one moment, like maybe his first play of the game might have been like a dunk on like a short roll where Shea hit a pocket pass to him, if I remember correctly. But like Hartenstein is not overly vertical. Like a lot of his game is based on that little like left-handed floater offensively, right? A lot of small guys, like Jalen Williams is mostly like a below the rim guy. Caruso, Isaiah Joe, Shea is not like a crazy, vertical player necessarily. I don't think that I think they could use one more like vertical guy, basically. I mean, the guy that I've always loved, like as an idea for them, is John Collins. I just don't think it fits their salary structure with the way that J-Dub and Chet are going to have to be paid here coming up. Maybe it does though, because those guys won't be on rookie scale deals until 2026, 27. I think that could actually be like a fun, front court addition for them. But I've brought that up before, and I don't know that they necessarily have interest in that. And plus, like the finances get a little bit funky as well with that too, in terms of like who they would move. They probably have to move Dort, and I definitely would not want to move Dort for John Collins. But if Collins was to ever like hit free agency or get cut or something, and he still has the pop at that point, that's an interesting move to them, or for them to me, just to get like a little bit more vertical pop. Not a lot, just a little bit. This one, again, Giannis. The reason I put this one on here, to my point on the Thunder, not necessarily helping off of Andre Jackson. Here you've got Giannis guarding Caruso and just sitting in the paint, right? Closes out and then just swats it off of his face. When the Thunder got Caruso, I kind of thought teams would have to guard him as a shooter a little bit more than they have so far. But to this point, they haven't had to. And that's been an issue for Oklahoma City offensively. He brings more than he takes off the table, to be clear. Like defensively, Caruso's so good and he brings so much to them in terms of what they do that I think he's definitely a valuable player. But I will say that they have run into this a few times this year where teams have just felt comfortable not guarding him, putting somebody like Giannis on him, putting a center on him, having them camp out in the paint, and he hasn't always been able to take advantage. This is just a ridiculous recovery block too on some level from Giannis. So here again, screen. This time we've got Dort on him. Dort doing a good job being physical. And this is just an insane pass from Giannis. This is a ridiculous pass. Again, using your physical tools to your advantage as a passer. Honestly, Dort here does about as well as I saw anybody do tonight on Giannis, frankly. Just being physical with him at the point of attack. Being tough. Kind of holding him up here, using your chest, walling up, being physical. Dort's stronger than probably everybody else that they have. So I thought this was quite good. So you look at Trent here. Jalen Williams is guarding Trent to start this play. Got Shea on Green. You've got Caruso on Lillard. This is also when, or no, this isn't when they had the super small lineup out because Hartenstein's out there. But J-Dub assumes he has to come and help, which means that Caruso has to be responsible for the 1-on-2 here. Caruso's trying to figure out, is he going to Lillard? Is he going to Trent? And this is one where just being bigger, longer, stronger than everybody, right? You can zoom that ball out, create the angle, kick out up to Lillard, cash, hockey assist. Perfect. Now I've got backing down Jalen Williams again. Hartenstein comes over and help. How does Hartenstein end up on AJ Green here? AJ goes over to the corner to empty the side out for Giannis to be able to back down. Shea passes off Green onto Hartenstein here. In my personal opinion, I would be interested to know like what they were doing schematically coming into the game. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I necessarily know how they wanted to manage these empty side post-ups because I'm sure that they knew they were coming. In my personal opinion, I would like to see Shea follow him if he is an elite shooter like AJ Green is and leave Hartenstein on the double here. By passing him off, you take away the potential of the double, and now you force Hartenstein into a difficult closeout against an absolutely lethal shooter. And look, Hartenstein closes out really well here. Does about as well as you can do there, in my opinion. AJ Green is just, I don't know what the numbers say. I would say he's probably one of the 15 best shooters in the league, though, right now. Shooting 46%. No, I'm sorry, 47.6% from three. I mean, probably one of the 10 best shooters in the league. I think I might have understated it there. I would like to see Shea go with him, personally. That's a small, thing, though. And then defensively here to close it up. This is just an insane reaction here. Uses his length, gets over, doesn't quit on the play. High points this ball. Again, just not a very vertical player. Hartenstein. Giannis is able to explode upward. Get this ball. And that's your game. Just a really, really impressive showing from Milwaukee, and not a great showing from Oklahoma City. They just didn't have a great night. Again, like I've seen some folks in the comments say, look, 5 for 32 from three. I don't disagree. They shot poorly from three. That's not always going to happen. It's absolutely true. You would expect that they're not going to go 5 for 32 from three. I will say, though, this team doesn't have a lot of options against teams that can shut down the basket if the three-point shot isn't falling. They've really become reliant on really the mid-range jumper at that point. And Shea's one of the best mid-range scorers in the league. Jalen Williams is one of the best mid-range scorers in the league. Like, they have the dudes to theoretically be able to do it. But by and large, that is a difficult way to live. So I say that to say that like this is a minor thing that we should be watching for with the Thunder. We shouldn't overemphasize it. The Thunder are still sitting here at 20-5 on the season. They have the third best record in the league. They look fantastic. This game was in no way, shape, or form concerning at all for their defense. They defended well in this game. Gave up 97 points to Milwaukee. But as Drew says, this is actually a really good point. This dynamic is fairly similar to how they lost to Dallas. Dallas did a really good job just kind of bottling up Shea and Jalen. Forced them to kind of live on that mid-range, those floaters, kind of all of that. But again, like Chet didn't shoot super well from three in the playoffs. And sometimes you're going to shoot well, sometimes you're not. If teams know that they can just shut down the interior because they have a great rim protector or great rim protection, and then they can close out on all of your spacers, the math gets hard. The math gets harder. Now, Oklahoma City, automatically, every single night this season compared to last season, they were good on defense last year. They were like a top 5 defense in the league. They are a genuinely great defense this year, which completely changes the calculus for them moving forward. Completely changes everything that they're going to do. But I do think that like shot creation and a lack of like vertical rim running toward the basket are probably the two things that I would look at. And the shot creation might get fixed when Chet gets back. Chet is a very capable shot creator at the 4 or 5. I actually definitely at the 5. I'm interested to see what it looks like at the 4, I would say. Does he still maintain that marginal advantage that he showcases at the 5 against bigger centers as consistently at the 4? I think he probably will, but it is something that he has to prove at the end of the day. So yeah, I love the Thunder. You know, they're very clearly to me one of the 2 best teams in the league. I would still take them over Cleveland. But if there is a flaw here, I do think that that is the one. Just consistent shot creation and being able to get easier shots consistently. I would say to me, just consistently getting easier shots. And shout out to the Bucks. Shout out to Giannis. Again, to me, I don't have a vote for MVP. Now that I can't bet on basketball, maybe I should try to acquire one. Maybe I should ask around, say like, hey, I wouldn't mind this. Can I get a vote? But to me, right now, if I had a vote, I would have Giannis for MVP. I think it's going to be back and forth the whole year. I think it's probably Jokic or Giannis. Shea or Tatum could wiggle their way in at some point. But yeah, I mean, I would right now, a third of the way through the season or whatever we are, right around a third of the way. I think the Bucks have played 25 games. You know, let's see here. Knicks have played 26. Orlando's played 28. Hawks 27. Pacers 27. Bulls 27. Yeah, we're a third of the way into the season. Typically 27 is the number. Yeah, I would have Giannis at MVP right now. I would. Terrific basketball team. Okay. And shout out to Milwaukee for turning their season around too. I do want to say that as well. They're sitting here 14-11 in the regular season, just won the NBA Cup. Very deserving. They've done a great job. Somebody asked, who do I think would win a series between Denver and Milwaukee? We're going to talk about Denver tomorrow. So for people who are regular listeners of the podcast with Bryce and I, we're moving the Thursday podcast to Wednesday, just in terms of some dynamics with travel for Bryce and things like that. So we'll be back tomorrow. We're going to podcast. I probably won't do post-game theory tomorrow night because of that now. I would say that I'm interested to see what Denver does with this current iteration of Denver. I would currently pick Milwaukee. I do want to see what Denver does to kind of shift this energy and everything at the deadline, based on reporting from Sam Amick and Tony Jones. Tony's my guy. I love him. It seems like they're really operating as if they want to be active at the deadline and kind of change the complexion of this team a little bit. So I don't know how much it's even really worth diving super deep into what that looks like necessarily. So really fascinated, really, really, really fascinated to see what Denver does. But that is a problem for tomorrow with Bryce and I, where we get to talk about the fact that they're looking at Zach LaVine and maybe Brandon Ingram as well. Okay. Yeah, Mos Neff. That is absolutely a conversation for tomorrow that will happen. We will definitely be talking about Zach LaVine and Ingram and all those guys. So I appreciate everyone coming to hang out. This is a great, fun time. We're going shorter than we normally do on these post-game theories. Giannis made it easy on us tonight. Shout out Hartenstein. I thought Hartenstein played well tonight. I feel like I maybe didn't say that as we were talking through this today, but I thought Hartenstein played really well. He ended up with 16 and 12. And I thought he was pretty impactful as a presence around the rim. Really just came down to shot making and them not being able to make shots at the end of the day. But that's all we got for tonight. The Giannis breakdown will go up as like a thing tomorrow morning of GMAC. Andrew. Shout out to Andrew, by the way. Andrew Claudio, an icon, producer of the show. I appreciate everyone for coming to hang out. We had a good time here. Shout out to the Milwaukee Bucks. We'll be back tomorrow. Think our time right now is right around 4:45 Central, 5:45 Eastern time in the US, which would be 9:45 my time. So we'll be back then. Until next time, we'll talk soon.